Hey there. Have you ever watched someone doing what they absolutely love and remembering something inside that says, I remember that. I remember that feeling. Yeah. Well, recently with the Winter Olympics, watching the athletes compete, especially the figure skaters, just watching Alysa Liu was absolutely breathtaking with her free skate. And she was so relaxed and free and happy and joyful, like skated with like a childlike playfulness. The thing of it is, though, and she won the gold medal, which is like, yes, totally wonderful. But back in 2022, after the Beijing Olympics, she walked away. She retired. She literally said that the reason she walked away was because she was burned out, depleted, exhausted, overwhelmed. There was just so much pressure of, competing on the elite level that she was done. The joy, the fun was gone. She wanted to have new opportunities. So she listened to her soul and retired. And she went to college for a year. She went to concerts, hung out with friends and her siblings, and skied and did all sorts of new things that she had never had the opportunity to do before. And then in 2024, she went back on the ice just to test it out. And she rediscovered that she loved it, that she wanted to come back, but on her terms, authentically and grounded, and with that sense of joy and alignment that came from inside of her. And that's how we got to see her in the 2026 Olympics. And she skated with alignment. And her story reminds me of many educators where when we go into education, whether it's as a classroom teacher, a counselor, my case, a librarian, or an administrator, whatever, it may or may not be a calling, but it's definitely there's a desire to contribute, to serve, to guide and support young minds, young students, hopefully make an impact, inspiring them. Yet over the years, and doesn't even have to be all that many, where we find that the paperwork and all the drudgery kinds of things, it takes so much more time. The pressures and the expectations, they just escalate with every year. And then, of course, there's well, we won't even go into the money thing, but there's also the emotional toll that being in education, wearing so many hats, it takes on so many educators. And so that flame that we had at one time, it starts to really diminish. So it's barely a spark if it's even there. And the thing of it is that you didn't fail. Just somehow along the way, you got disconnected from who you truly are. What soul alignment is when what you're doing externally matches what you're feeling internally. And it looks like flow and ease and fun, not force. And it's filled with meaning and purpose and fulfillment, not obligation. And you feel energized and excited, not depleted. And there's a sense of presence and joy rather than simply going through the motions. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to leave education, but it does mean that you need to connect or reconnect and realign with who you truly are. And yes, sometimes that it may mean that something has to shift, whether you change the environment, you change your role, or maybe you learn new coping strategies or ways of handling your own emotions and your energy. Or it could mean that you do choose to leave education, at least for a time. But something does need to shift. And most important is that you come back to reconnecting and knowing who you truly are. So let's, for a moment, I invite you to just pause and think about your career in education. And as you go back through the memories, I'd like you to look for, in particular, a memory of a time when it was a class or a unit or a project, an experiment, whatever, that it just flowed. Your students were engaged and excited, and you were just like in the zone. I mean, you were just like so present and there. And as you feel into that and remember it, I ask you to think about what were you feeling in that moment? And then I'd like you to drop that feeling, a word or two, into the comments below. Because, we get so busy in education that many times when we just have that really fabulous lesson or discussion, whatever, and it just becomes one another day and another day and another day, and we don't celebrate it. We don't necessarily recognize ourselves for when we did a fabulous job. And so that's why I ask you to drop that feeling into the comments so you can reconnect with that. And also so that all of us reading can celebrate and recognize you for having that experience. Because that's what it means to reconnect to who you truly are. That's being so aligned. So I look forward to seeing and reading your comments and celebrating with you. And until I see you again, namaste.